Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive into the life and really the career of Farrah Fawcett. And her story is just so much more complex than that simple, sun-drenched image that history usually gives her.
Hmm.
When you hear her name, most people, they instantly picture it. The red swimsuit poster. Or maybe her famous feathered hair from Charlie's Angels.
Right.
She was an absolute cultural force. You could argue she was the single defining visual icon of the mid-1970s. But what so often gets lost in that memory is the sheer breadth and intensity of her acting career, especially her very deliberate shift into some really grueling, dramatic work through the 80s.
It's a classic case of the image just completely swallowing the artist.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating here is how how intentionally she steered her career away from that pinup fame.
She saw it happening.
She absolutely did. She recognized that her instantaneous, overwhelming success had defined her in a way she didn't want, and she spent the next 3 decades fighting for legitimacy. She moved from a global celebrity defined by beauty to, well, an acclaimed dramatic actress.
And that's not just an opinion, right? It's backed up by tangible evidence.
Exactly. We're talking 4 Career Emmy Award nominations and 6 Golden Globe nominations. That recognition wasn't earned through light, breezy roles. It was earned by taking on these intense, raw, often emotionally violent portrayals of victims, of abusers, and these complex real-life women.
So this deep dive, it's going to trace that remarkable transformation. We're going to look at the complexity of a woman who was so often defined by a single, simple, beautiful picture.
Her journey, really, from Corpus Christi, Texas, all the way to critical acclaim, and then that final, very public struggle with cancer. That's the core of our mission today.
Right, and our source material for this is a detailed biographical portrait that covers everything. Her meteoric rise, her very challenging personal life, and what you could call the ultimate artistic achievement of being taken seriously, but on her own terms.
Let's get into it.
So let's start at the beginning, down in Texas. Farrah Fawcett was born Mary Fairlani Fawcett on February 2nd, 1947, in Corpus Christi. And what strikes me is that she wasn't some ingenue just plucked from obscurity. She came from a very grounded, sort of middle-class background.
Exactly. She was the younger of 2 daughters. Her father, James William Fawcett, was an oil field contractor, and her mother, Pauline Alice Fawcett, was a homemaker. This was a solid, traditional Texas upbringing.
And the name is a curious detail.
It is. While she later changed the spelling for professional reasons to Farrah, her original middle name, Farrah, was reportedly just made up by her mother, Pauline.
Made up.
Yeah, simply because she felt it flowed beautifully with the last name, Fawcett. Just an aesthetic choice.
She definitely had a distinctly Roman Catholic upbringing. She attended St. Patrick's Parish School. But even outside of Hollywood, even as a teenager in Texas, she was consistently recognized for her beauty, which really set the stage for everything that followed.
It's true. It's an unbroken line of recognition that starts incredibly early. At W.B. Ray High School, she was voted most beautiful every single year she attended.
Every year.
Freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. And then when she went to the University of Texas between 1965 and 1968, she initially chose a surprisingly rigorous path. She studied microbiology.
Microbiology. That's a serious academic pursuit. It's so far from the arts. And I think that shows a level of dedication beyond just image, even if she did later switch her major to art.
She did. She studied under Professor Charles Umlauf, who became a close mentor. But even in that collegiate environment, the recognition just continued. In her freshman year, she was named one of the 10 most beautiful co-eds on campus.
Wow.
And this was a huge deal because she was the first freshman ever selected for that distinction.
So this visibility she had in Texas, that was essentially her accidental audition tape for Hollywood, wasn't it?
Precisely. It was this public recognition, these photos being circulated, that attracted professional attention. A Hollywood agent named David Mirisch discovered her photos and began relentlessly, just constantly, urging her to come to Los Angeles.
But she didn't jump at it.
No, and what's telling about her personality is that she demonstrated this measured approach, a certain maturity. She turned him down for 2 full years. She didn't just rush toward the light.
But eventually she made the move. In the summer of '68, at 21 years old, she moved to Los Angeles, and the door just opened immediately. She signed a contract with Screen Gems for $350 a week, which launched her straight into what we could call her commercial era.
And this period, the late 60s and early 70s, was foundational. It was all about building her face recognition across America. She became ubiquitous on national television, fronting these huge campaigns for brands like Ultra Bright toothpaste, Noxzema skin cream, and Max Factor cosmetics.
And the Mercury Cougar automobiles, that was a big one.
A very big one.
Hmm.
These commercials provided immediate, widespread exposure, just laying the groundwork for mass recognition.
And she was constantly working on scripted TV, too. I mean, you see her popping up in all these classic shows of the era, guest roles on The Flying Nun, I Dream of Jeannie.
Right, between 69 and 70. The Partridge Family, too.
She even did an appearance on the popular game show The Dating Game.
That kind of guesswork is the classic training ground for actors in that era. But her television presence really solidified as she began her relationship with Lee Majors.
Mm-hmm.
She appeared in 4 episodes of The $6 Million Man alongside him. And maybe more importantly, she had a recurring role as Sue Ingham, the title character's girlfriend, on the series Harry O. from 74 to 76.
So by 1976, she was a known entity in Hollywood. People knew who she was. But she hadn't yet become this global phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
And then the explosion happens, and it wasn't a movie or a show or an album. It was a single photograph, the iconic red swimsuit poster, a moment of cultural and economic impact that few single images in history have ever matched.
The creation of that poster is legendary, and the details surrounding it, they just illuminate her incredible control over her own image. It happened in 1976. Pro Arts Inc. arranged a shoot with photographer Bruce McBroom. But Farrah, she took almost complete artistic control.
Really?
Oh, yeah. She styled her own hair, famously creating that feathered look, enhancing her blonde highlights with lemon juice, and she meticulously did her own makeup. And get this, she did it without a mirror.
Without a mirror. She knew her face better than anyone else. After the shoot, our source material says she went through 40 rolls of film and personally selected her 6 favorite pictures, which led to that final image. The relaxed pose in the red one-piece bathing suit, designed by Norma Kamali.
And the economic result of that one decision was staggering. The poster became the single best-selling poster in history, selling an astonishing 6 million copies in its first year alone.
6 million.
And this is the crucial insight here. Farrah Fawcett was one of the first celebrities whose likeness became far more valuable than her labor.
That's a great way to put it.
The sheer revenue generated from this single product, it foreshadowed the economics of modern celebrity, of influencer culture, decades before social media even existed.
Likeness over labor. That's a brilliant distinction.
Yeah.
And the cultural reverberations were immediate, especially in fashion and hair salons. Her unique hairstyle became an international phenomenon. It was known as the Farrah do, the Farrah flip, or just.
Farrah hair.
Right. Fair hair. This one aesthetic choice dominated American women's styles well into the 1980s. She didn't just have a hit show. She created a required physical aesthetic that millions of people tried to emulate.
And it was in this climate of overwhelming, unprecedented public adoration for her image, this commercial juggernaut, that she stepped into her defining television role, Jill Monroe in Charlie's Angels.
And the casting, it ties right back to her personal connections. Producer Aaron Spelling was a frequent tennis partner of Farrah and her then-husband Lee Majors. He chose her for the role in the made-for-TV movie pilot, which first aired in March of 1976.
At the time, she was billed as Farrah Fawcett Majors. She co-starred with Kate Jackson and Jaclyn Smith. When the series formally debuted in September 1976, the success was immediate, it was massive, and it was honestly entirely disproportionate.
What do you mean by that?
Well, while all 3 actresses were propelled to stardom, Fawcett distinctly dominated the popularity polls. She just generated the most media coverage, the most fan mail. She was the breakout star, no question.
She was instantly crowned the most popular. She quickly won a People's Choice Award for Favorite Performer in a new TV program. But the show's success wasn't just about the acting or the plotting, it was about the phenomenon she embodied.
And that's why her quote to TV Guide in 1977 is so revealing. She quipped, "When the show was number 3, I thought it was our acting. When we got to be number 1, I decided it could only be because none of us wears a bra."
Wow, that's a very self-aware comment.
It perfectly captures the focus on image, and it financially justified her control over her own image. As we mentioned, she earned significantly more in royalties from the sales of that iconic red swimsuit poster than she did from her actual salary for being on Charlie's Angels.
Her likeness was a commodity all on its own. The show had global appeal, it maintained high appeal and syndication, and it fueled this entire cottage industry of peripheral products. Everything from dolls and puzzles to lunchboxes, all featuring Fawcett's recognizable face and hair. She was the absolute epicenter of the phenomenon.
But despite the massive success, or maybe because of the success and the immense pressure it brought, she made a very abrupt and shocking choice for the time. A true rarity for a star of her magnitude.
She left the series in the spring of 1977 after only one season.
Just one.
This sudden, shocking exit was attributed to a few things. She cited the immense strain the demanding filming schedules placed on her marriage to Lee Majors. But perhaps more profoundly, she expressed a fierce ambition to pivot to serious film roles. She believed she'd already outgrown television.
This decision was met with immediate legal ramifications because, and this is a key detail, she had never actually officially signed the series contract.
What? How is that possible?
She was relying, perhaps too much, on her personal connection to Spelling. And this resulted in a protracted, messy lawsuit filed by Spelling and his company. It was one of the first major public battles between a star and a mega producer over control and contracts.
And the resolution, which was only reached through legal pressure, was a difficult compromise for her.
Very difficult. She was mandated to sign a new contract requiring her to make 6 guest appearances over the following 2 years, from 1978 to 1980.
Which allowed the show to use her star power for these brief cameos while they introduced Cheryl Ladd, who replaced her as a main cast member, playing Jill Monroe's younger sister, Chris Monroe.
Her goal, however, was the silver screen. She wanted to prove she was a film actress. But this post-Angels transition was immediately, and I mean immediately, fraught with difficulty. It resulted in a string of box office and critical disappointments that were just brutal for her confidence and her reputation.
It's important to contextualize this. In that era, the barrier between television and major motion pictures was rigid. It was very hard to cross over. And there was a prevailing Hollywood sexism that made it exceptionally difficult for women, especially women who became famous primarily for their beauty, to be taken seriously as leading dramatic film stars.
Absolutely. Her first major post-Angels film, Somebody Killed Her Husband in 1978, was utterly savaged by critics. It led to that infamous and cruel joke that the film should be retitled Somebody Killed Her Career.
That one joke really illustrates the pressure she was under, and the trend just continued. Sunbrung in '79, and then the science fiction thriller Saturn III in 1980, where she co-starred with Kirk Douglas.
Right. They also earned unfavorable reviews and suffered poor box office returns. She did have a brief topless appearance in Saturn III, which created a media stir, but it certainly didn't validate her dramatic aspirations. She then attempted a different route with the ensemble comedy The Cannonball Run in 1981. And that was a financial success because of the massive star-studded cast. However, her performance was singled out, earning her a Razzie nomination for Worst Supporting Actress.
So by the early 1980s, the public loved Farrah Fawcett, but they weren't buying her as a serious dramatic film star. This difficult period, marked by failure and mockery, it forced the next and most critical pivot in her professional life, a shift that was born of desperation that she turned into dedication.
This is the definitive turning point in our narrative. She realized she couldn't outrun the pinup label in traditional Hollywood blockbusters. She needed to dismantle that image, and she chose the stage and television's most grueling formats to do it.
She needed material that demanded intense emotional and physical commitment, forcing the audience and the critics to look beyond her hair. And she found that opportunity in the theater. In 1983, she replaced Susan Sarandon in the off-Broadway production of the controversial play Extremities.
This is a dark, raw piece of material. She took on the challenging role of Marjorie, an attempted rape victim who manages to gain control over and subdue her attacker. I mean, it deals with profound trauma and moral ambiguity.
The commitment she brought was transformative. She described the role as the most grueling, the most intense, the most physically demanding and emotionally exhausting of her entire career. The physical nature of it required her to be choked and struggle convincingly night after night.
And that decision, to subject herself to that level of raw performance art, it immediately signaled a depth and a dedication to craft that very few people expected from a former angel.
And the intensity wasn't just limited to the stage action. Her celebrity status, ironically, made the performance even more fraught. The source material notes a disturbing incident where, during one performance, a stalker in the audience actually disrupted the show. He loudly asked if she had received the mail and photos he had sent her.
Wow. While she was performing.
While she was immersed in a role about vulnerability and violence, it just underscores the constant psychological pressure she endured simply by existing as a major celebrity tackling such sensitive material.
That stage triumph led to the highly successful 1986 film version of Extremities, a role that finally earned her the critical recognition she craved. A Golden Globe nomination for Best Performance by an actress in a motion picture drama.
And that success gave her leverage. But her true artistic home, where she really found her niche, was the high-impact television drama, especially the made-for-TV movie format.
Let's discuss that crucial milestone, The Burning Bed in 1984. Her portrayal of the real-life battered wife Francine Hughes was incredibly powerful. It earned her the first of her 4 career Emmy Award nominations.
The significance of that project, it really can't be overstated, both for her career and for public policy.
Absolutely. It wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural event. The film was the first television movie to include a nationwide 800 number dedicated specifically to offering help for victims of domestic abuse. That decision to use the massive reach of television to provide an immediate social solution had a tangible, life-saving impact.
And for Farrah, this was a massive artistic success. It became the highest-rated television movie of that entire season. It showed she could not only act with depth, but that she could use her fame to highlight serious social issues and generate real change.
This was the moment she stopped being just an object of beauty and started being a legitimate dramatic force.
And following that success, she excelled in portraying real-life, often infamous or renowned women roles that required immense research and dramatic transformation.
Yes, she received several Golden Globe nominations for this biographical work during the mid to late 80s. She portrayed the Nazi hunter Beat Klarsfeld in Nazi Hunter, the Beat Klarsfeld story, and then the tragically troubled Woolworth heiress Barbara Hutton in Poor Little Rich Girl, Barbara Hutton's story.
She also demonstrated her range by successfully portraying the groundbreaking Life magazine photojournalist Margaret Burke-White in Double Exposure, the story of Margaret Burke-White, a role for which she won a Cable Award in 1989.
These were roles that required depth, historical context, and immense dramatic range. They completely obliterated the breezy, superficial image of the California private investigator.
Her commitment to dark, challenging, and psychologically complex material, it all culminated in the 1989 miniseries Small Sacrifices.
A tough one.
Here, she took on the role of the real-life convicted murderer Diane Downs, a performance that required her to inhabit the persona of a narcissist who had committed the unimaginable crime of shooting her own children. This performance earned her a second Emmy nomination and her 6th career Golden Globe nomination.
And the miniseries itself was recognized with one of the most prestigious honors in broadcasting, a Peabody Award.
Right. For the listener who might not be familiar with its standing, the Peabody Award recognizes the best stories, quality, and commitment to excellence in electronic media, often focusing on social relevance.
And the organization specifically praised Fawcett. They said she brought a sense of realism rarely seen in television miniseries to the role of Diane Downs. That kind of critical recognition confirmed that she had not just escaped the pinup label, but had successfully achieved the dramatic respect she had sought after leaving the initial fame of Charlie's Angels.
So while her career was hitting these impressive artistic highs in the 80s, we have to acknowledge that her personal life remained incredibly turbulent and really fraught with difficulty. The raw intensity she brought to roles like Francine Hughes often mirrored, or at least provided a profound contrast to, the instability in her own relationships.
Her marriage to Lee Majors lasted from 1973 to 1982, though they separated in 1979. And that was partially due to the demands of their respective television careers. They had no children, and she used the name Farrah Fawcett Majors throughout that marriage.
The separation marked the beginning of her long and highly volatile relationship with actor Ryan O'Neal, which started in 1979. They were an iconic couple of the 80s.
They were. Their only son, Redmond James Fawcett O'Neal, was born in 1985. But the relationship was frequently characterized by high drama. O'Neal's own daughter, Tatum O'Neal, publicly alleged that her father had a terrible temper and was very violent, even claiming he beat her up.
And it is reported that Fawcett and O'Neal did later rekindle their relationship in 2001, and Ryan O'Neal said just days before her death that she had accepted his proposal to marry him when she felt strong enough.
But tragically, the pattern of instability and alleged violence appeared in another relationship as well. She dated a Canadian filmmaker, James Orr, from 1997 to 1998. The relationship ended with Orr's arrest and subsequent conviction for beating Fawcett during a fight in 1998.
So our sources indicate she carried a considerable burden of private suffering while maintaining her public persona.
It's important to note the complexity of her final years as well. Her college boyfriend, Greg Lott, insisted that they had rekindled their romance in 1998 and maintained a loving, consensual one-on-one relationship until her death.
Right, and Lott firmly asserted that her highly public dynamic with Ryan O'Neal was merely Hollywood fantasy, designed only to maintain her image for the media. And we know Lott was subsequently left $100,000 in her living trust.
And we must acknowledge the immense tragedy surrounding her only child, Redmond. He has faced devastating struggles with drug addiction for most of his adult life. The situation reached a critical point where, as of 2019, he was judged unfit to stand trial for various charges.
And he remains confined in a psychiatric facility, having been diagnosed with a combination of severe and debilitating conditions, including schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. The struggle to cope with her son's severe mental health issues and addiction was just an immense private burden that required incredible fortitude in her later years.
Against the backdrop of this complex personal life, she continued to challenge public perception through artistic means. For years, she had famously resisted signing a release for nude photographs in mainstream magazines, despite that brief appearance in Saturn III.
But she caused a major stir by posing semi-nude for Playboy in December 1995.
And then again. At age 50, she posed for the July 1997 issue, which was another top seller. The 1997 pictorial and an accompanying video featured her using her own body to literally paint on canvas.
Which she maintained was a genuine, long-held artistic ambition.
Right, and this act was widely interpreted. Some saw it as a desperate attempt to stay relevant, but others saw it as a fascinating attempt to blend high-profile celebrity, sexuality, and serious physical art, demonstrating her continued commitment to controlling and challenging perceptions of her own body and image.
Speaking of challenging perceptions, that same year, 1997, her public image was momentarily destabilized after she received considerable negative commentary for an appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman. The interview was widely described as rambling and seemingly distracted.
Oh, I remember that. It became a huge talking point in pop culture, with many viewers speculating about her behavior. She later clarified that what looked like distraction was actually her just joking around and reacting to fans in the audience, which was chaotic.
The incident became a notable piece of late-night television lore, and it's worth adding that Letterman, many years later in 2009, did offer a kind of symbolic apology after an incoherent interview with Joaquin Phoenix, suggesting he regretted how he handled the earlier Farrah situation.
Despite the intense public scrutiny and the controversies, she continued to work with top-tier talent in independent and serious film. Robert Duvall specifically chose her to play his wife in the critically acclaimed independent feature The Apostle in 1997.
And this role, a supporting female character of substance, earned her an Independent Spirit Award nomination, one of the most prestigious honors in indie film. She later worked with the legendary director Robert Altman in Dr. T and the Women in 2000.
Her artistic aspirations were not limited to performance either. She collaborated extensively with the sculptor Keith Edmeyer. Their joint work was exhibited at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art and later displayed at the Andy Warhol Museum, confirming that her interest in physical art and sculpture was genuine and received recognition within the cultural elite.
And in her later career, she continued to demonstrate her value in television. Her recurring role on The Guardian from 2002 to 2003 earned her a third career Emmy nomination, this time for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Drama Series.
There was one final, difficult attempt at a major dramatic venture on the stage. Her prepared Broadway debut in Bobby Boland in 2003. Unfortunately, the show closed abruptly during preview performances before officially opening. The decision reportedly left Fawcett vibrating with frustration, which speaks volumes about her desire to perform challenging material, even late in life. She was constantly pushing herself toward the toughest venues.
We now move to the final, most raw chapter of her life, which was characterized by immense courage and a profound decision to document her illness publicly. She transformed her private struggle into a public health discussion. She was diagnosed with a relatively rare form of anal cancer in 2006.
She immediately began standard treatment, which included chemotherapy and surgery, and initial reports were positive. On her 60th birthday in February 2007, the Associated Press reported she was cancer-free.
However, the recurrence was swift and aggressive. By May 2007, she was tragically diagnosed with stage 3 cancer that had metastasized to her liver, a diagnosis that typically carries a very low survival rate. A malignant polyp was also discovered where the initial cancer had been treated.
Faced with a dire prognosis and the prospect of a debilitating colostomy from standard treatments, which she strongly opposed, she began seeking aggressive and alternative treatments. She traveled to Germany for innovative therapies.
And it's important to understand the nature of these interventions. They were targeted and non-standard.
Yes, the term alternative sometimes carries a connotation of being passive, but her treatments were incredibly intensive. These aggressive therapies included procedures like perfusion.
Which is a method to deliver high doses of chemotherapy directly to a specific organ.
Right. And also embolization and laser ablation therapy alongside continued chemotherapy back in the United States. Initially, the tumors showed signs of regression, but they ultimately reappeared, which necessitated further intensive medical warfare.
In early April 2009, she faced a painful setback. She was hospitalized not for the cancer's spread, but due to a serious abdominal hematoma. By early May 2009, Ryan O'Neal reported that she was critically ill, spending her days at home on an IV, often asleep, indicating the sheer physical toll the disease and the treatments had taken.
And it was during this critical and immensely difficult period in April 2009 that she was able to see her son Redmond one final time.
Oh, wow.
He was permitted a heavily supervised visit, but due to his ongoing confinement in the psychiatric facility, he had to remain shackled during their time together. The sources paint this as an agonizing intersection of her physical decline and her private, devastating grief over her son's tragic condition.
In the midst of all this, she made the conscious, brave decision to use her public platform to document her decline. Aided by her close friend, Alana Stewart, she filmed the process, which resulted in the 2-hour documentary, Farrah's Story.
This documentary aired on NBC on May 15, 2009, and was watched by nearly 9 million people. The choice to document her own deterioration was incredibly raw and courageous. It offered an unfiltered look at her physical and emotional battle against cancer. She turned what would have been a private, hidden tragedy into a public message of perseverance.
And this extraordinary effort was recognized professionally. Fawcett posthumously earned her 4th career Emmy nomination for her work as a producer on Farrah's Story, highlighting the quality and impact of the documentary itself.
However, the creation of the documentary was not without controversy. Her initial producing partner alleged that the final editing by Ryan O'Neal and Alana Stewart did not fully align with Fawcett's original wishes. The partner claimed Fawcett wanted the film to more thoroughly explore and validate the alternative methods of cancer treatment she had pursued in Germany.
So, suggesting a broader public health advocacy goal may have been diluted.
That was the allegation.
Farrah Fawcett died on June 25, 2009 at age 62 in Santa Monica, California, with Ryan O'Neal and Alana Stewart by her side.
And the timing of her death resulted in one of the most profound instances of media overshadowing in modern history. The news of Fawcett's passing was tragically and largely overwhelmed by the media coverage of Michael Jackson's death, which occurred only a few hours later on the very same day.
It just instantly dominated global headlines, broadcasts, internet traffic, everything.
Larry King, reflecting on it, noted that while the impact of Charlie's Angels in the 70s was unique due to the smaller media landscape, the sheer magnitude and immediate dominance of Jackson's story made the omission of Fawcett's death from the primary media focus undeniable at the time.
A private funeral was held on June 30, 2009. In a poignant moment, her son, Redmond, was permitted to leave detention to attend the service where he gave the first reading. She is interred at the Westwood Village Memorial Park.
And following her death, her careful estate planning came to light, detailing her final intentions. Her living trust, which was last amended in 2007, made a very clear statement about her finances and her personal life. She left nothing to Ryan O'Neal. The principal of her $4.5 million estate was dedicated to the future care of her son. It was placed into a trust for Redmond, overseen by her business manager, designated specifically for his continued health care and treatment.
She also left specific amounts to other close individuals, $500,000 each to her nephew and her father, and $100,000 to her college boyfriend, Greg Lott, demonstrating a careful consideration of those in her life who provided support.
A separate, high-profile, and long-running legal dispute arose over her art collection, which she had bequeathed to the University of Texas. The university discovered one of her 2 famous Andy Warhol portraits was missing, and subsequently sued Ryan O'Neal for retaining it.
And O'Neal claimed the portrait was a personal gift from Fawcett. The painting's value was assessed during the case to be between $800,000 and $12 million. The financial stakes were immense.
After a long legal battle spanning several years, a Los Angeles court ultimately ruled in December 2013 that the portrait did belong to Ryan O'Neal.
Despite the controversies, the legal battles, and the initial media overshadowing of her passing, her enduring legacy as a cultural icon remains undeniable.
Her most famous physical object, the iconic 1976 red one-piece bathing suit designed by Norma Kamali, was officially donated to the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History in 2011. It was presented by Ryan O'Neal, cementing its place in American popular culture history.
It's important to recall the strong public reaction when the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences excluded her from the In Memoriam montage at the 82nd Academy Awards in March 2010. This was despite her recognized film work in projects like The Apostle. Figures like Ryan O'Neal, Tatum O'Neal, and even renowned critic Roger Ebert publicly expressed their disappointment and outrage.
MPAs defended the decision by citing that she had already been recognized for her remarkable television work at the prior Primetime Emmy Awards. However, given her consistent work in serious independent and feature films throughout the 80s and 90s, the omission remained controversial for many who felt it diminished her cinematic contributions.
Beyond her dramatic achievements in visual iconography, her presence is woven into popular culture in surprisingly deep ways. Her likeness inspired a limited edition Barbie doll, complete with the famous feathered locks.
And perhaps the most surprising anecdote relates to music. The classic Gladys Knight and the Pips song, Midnight Train to Georgia, was initially inspired by a phone call songwriter Jim Weatherly had with Farrah Fawcett regarding her plans to take the midnight plane to Houston.
Oh, wait.
Yes, though the story and characters were later changed for the final, famous recording.
Wow. So this discussion, it reveals a star who was much more than the sum of her surface beauty or the financial success of her pinup image. Her willingness, even her insistence, to take on raw, difficult, and profoundly challenging roles.
Like the battered wife, Francine Hughes in The Burning Bed, or the convicted murderer Diane Downs in Small Sacrifices.
Exactly. It shows a deep, persistent desire to challenge herself, to reclaim her narrative, and to affect audiences profoundly. This dramatic drive ultimately defined her lasting artistic contribution far beyond the Hollywood glamour she initially embodied.
We've traced her entire journey, from accidental icon to determined dramatist. We've seen how much effort she put into using her public platform, especially at the end of her life, to document her personal struggle with cancer, creating Farrah's story to chronicle her fight and elevate awareness.
So it leaves you with this thought. Consider what responsibility, if any, a public figure has to document their private battles, especially when faced with extreme illness, and how that kind of visibility shapes public discourse around rare diseases and the often controversial pursuit of alternative therapies.